Hi everyone, I am here with Victoria Greene, Chief Investments Officer of G Squared Wealth Management. Victoria, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. It's an amazing venue here. We're out overlooking the river. We're about to maybe walk around on Broadway, whatever the cool street is here. Nashville's fantastic, beautiful hotel, wonderful venue.
Thank you. Okay, so what's top of research for you?
So for me, it's all about markets, all about the economy, everything that's happening, because the world feels terrible. I use the term dumpster fire more than I ever have in my life, but the markets are great and they're so resilient, and so we're having to really manage people's behaviors. We're having to talk to them about their expectations and really kind of filter out so much noise. And I think that's the hardest part right now, is focus on the fundamentals, which are growing. EPS is growing, earnings are coming great. Last week was weak in the markets, right? We had everything. We had PCE, we had the Fed meeting, we had Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Meta, all of these companies reporting. And you know what? The market stumbled a little bit, but look at it. They picked themselves right back up again today. So one of our topics this year is resiliency, and having that mental toughness as an investor, that there's going to be some things that make you feel very uncomfortable. And so we warn people, like, be comfortable being uncomfortable this year, because it's not going to feel great being an investor.
That's great advice. Women in wealth retreat. What's one misconception that you'd love to have changed or challenged in the wealth industry?
This is not just a chick conference, and we're not just talking about clothes and fashion and style. Like, the substance in here is phenomenal. I go to many top-notch conferences, and for me, this one's always a phenomenal one. It's on my rotation every single year, because it's the substance, it's the panels, it's the conversations afterwards, and you really get into it. And the one thing that I think is different is it's a much more collaborative feel. Like, sometimes it can be a little bit broy at conferences, and this is much more like, I feel anybody feels comfortable asking questions. And I love that, because it gets the dialogue going. Sometimes takes you down some rabbit holes maybe you wouldn't pursue if people didn't feel as comfortable, because it's just such a welcoming, collaborative environment to share ideas in.
I love that. One influence in your life and why?
Okay, this one's a bit silly, but I've always loved it. So during COVID, and I'm going to paraphrase this terribly, but Queen Elizabeth did an address to the UK, and she said, I hope in the future you can look back on your actions and how you acted right now and be proud of yourself. I'm always taught, and it was said much better than that, much more eloquently, probably with some corgis at her feet. But I really always felt like that was such a great perspective on the world of how you're comporting yourself today. In the future, are you going to be happy how you get there? We're in a competitive industry. That doesn't mean you can't do things the right way. You can't help other people. And I've just thought that was like very poignant, stuff with me. And there's many other wonderful influences out there, but that one to me is, if I could talk to my past self, I would. I want to know that my future self is going to be proud of how I'm building my business and how I'm acting to that.
Last question, advice for the next gen.
You gotta be willing to fail, and you've gotta be willing to try. And it's very scary, I think, for people to put themselves out there, because we're in this era that everything's on video, everything's on TikTok. You don't want to be embarrassed. And if you're not trying, you're not pushing, you're gonna put yourself in a box, and you're never gonna grow. And it's uncomfortable growing. But I'm also gonna say, if you don't change, that's an active decision. So if you're not pursuing growth, then you aren't pursuing being stagnant, and that's not a great place to start your career. It's hard being young in this industry. Things are changing really rapidly, but I'm just gonna say, don't be afraid to try, and don't be afraid to fail. Like, if you listen to any successful person, it's almost universally like, oh yeah, I failed 19 times before I finally got the one that broke. And I think there's such this feeling of I have to do it right and perfectly the first time. And you have a few drinks and you start swapping war stories. It's almost always like, hey, you remember that dumb thing we did that one time, or why I sold Apple when I panicked, or whatever it was. And so I just think the next gen needs to be comfortable putting themselves out there, being uncomfortable, pushing themselves, learning, and realizing that no is not necessarily the end. You're going to be told no, you're going to be rejected by clients, you're going to get a trade wrong. That's our industry. Nobody bats 1,000 in our industry. And that failure is what makes people make or break, and you gotta just embrace it.
Amazing advice. Thank you, Victoria.
Thanks so much.